What is up, everybody? Let's talk Jets radio. Quick video here, just kind of recapping the last week surrounding the Jets and all the fallout from the Athletic article, from the team and Rex Hogan mutually parting ways, and just a lot of rumors swirling around. And it doesn't feel like the Jets are getting a Hall of Fame quarterback next year. Like the excitement that we all had coming into this year, my hope was that the team would be able to do enough last year, so that excitement kind of came back again, once we got through OTAs and training camp. But with all these stories coming out, all these rumors, the culture surrounding the team, it's very hard to just ignore all of it and act like everything's okay. So to me, first off, with Hogan, I think this speaks volumes of a larger issue, and you could probably conjure up like 50 different scenarios as far as like potential rifts and issues within the organization. But I think one thing is clear, that Saleh and people in the front office don't see eye to eye on some things, and I'm thinking it's possible that Hogan, seeing a sinking ship, not a believer in the coaching staff, basically said, "Screw this, give me a chance somewhere else." Now, I would also bet he was probably heavily involved with the Zach Wilson pick, as well as bringing him back this year as QB2. It was also reported that there were people in the front office that didn't want Flacco or other veterans like Carson Wentz. They felt Zach Wilson was a better option, so possibly he was tied to that as well. And I don't know, to be honest, how great the relationship is with Joe Douglas and Saleh. Especially if Saleh has this victim mindset about the quarterback position. Perhaps he feels that he's set up to fail, while Hogan and Joe Douglas probably feel like the coaching staff isn't developing players right. Now that also kind of goes back to Lafleur, because if Saleh didn't want to get rid of Lafleur, and he was ultimately told that he has to hire Hackett because that was part of a larger plan with Aaron Rodgers. Well, if that's where the issue is with the offensive staff, which it clearly is, the defense has been okay. Well, how much of that really falls on Saleh? The issues with the quarterback obviously stem from Joe Douglas missing on the number 2 pick, not having a plan for a backup quarterback. A lot of the reports were that Saleh didn't want to roll with Zach all year. He was frustrated by that, and they never really gave him another real option other than Trevor Siemian. So you kind of want to give Saleh a pass for some of that, but then you look at some of the other things that are going on with the culture and the way he's handling some things, and it's like, is this the right guy? Is he the right CEO type that the Jets really need? So I think the collective culture does start at the top. It trickles downward, the same way that on the field the quarterback can elevate guys or make them worse. I think the owner and his lack of leadership and just the overall priorities within the organization, the media paranoia, I think all of that has absolutely rubbed off on Saleh. Now, I'm not giving him a pass. He's got to be above that. But when the owner is feeding it to you, it's probably hard to ignore or to act like it doesn't matter. Your owner is telling you that it matters by putting the ideas in your head. Now, I think when you start to wonder who initiated all of this, it's pretty clear I would lean towards Hogan wanting a change of scenery over Joe Douglas firing his right hand guy. Somebody has to initiate the idea of moving on, and I don't believe that it was the Jets. But you wonder as well, like, about the replacements with running back coach, wide receiver coach, Tony Dews and Sean Jefferson coming in, when there really wasn't much of an indication that the team was making any changes. Then suddenly, like out of nowhere, we hear about interviews and then new hirings. And that brings me to something that Samini tweeted out. I think it was a few days ago, where he reported that this was done weeks ago. So one of two things had to have happened: either Samini threw the team a bone by reporting that information just to avoid the fallout of Hogan leaving in response to the Athletic article, which I think came out like 2 or 3 hours prior to the Hogan news, or if it really did happen weeks ago, certainly he could be a part of that story as a source, and they waited until it came out to announce that he was leaving. But then, why wouldn't it have been reported either by somebody else or by the Jets? Why wouldn't they put it out? At least that way, maybe they can discredit some of the article because they have multiple people now that they've moved on from, that they've parted ways from. But it all seems very strange. I don't know. I'm trying to move on from last year. Like, I am a believer that with a few moves, the roster has enough talent at least to make the playoffs. But I think we all have a lot of fair questions about the coaching staff as well as the front office and their ability to fix the offensive line and add some playmakers, and then just the overall aura around the team, the overall culture, which I don't really feel like has changed in any way for the better yet. So I'll say this, not expecting it, but acknowledging that anything is possible with this team. If there really is tension and friction and the leaks continue, and I'll even take it a step further, let's say we get to free agency and it doesn't go well. Let's say we bring in guys, we offer up our Jets tax, and we still miss out on our top targets. It would not surprise me at all, because they did it with McCagnon in 2019. If the Jets made a late coaching move with Vrabel and other guys like Carroll, I don't think Belichick would be a real option, but there's plenty of established candidates that are available. And I don't know if there's a way that you could kind of feel around, see if any of them would have interest right now. Personally, I don't think the current setup of the Jets is very desirable for any of those guys. But then you think about next year also, you might have teams like the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, who would be much more attractive destinations than the New York Jets as well, possibly competing for coaches too. But I just have a strange feeling that the Rex Hogan move might not be the last one that we hear about this offseason. And I know some people think it could happen like right after the Super Bowl. It wouldn't shock me at all. Again, like in 2019, if this happens, after free agency or after the draft, like as issues continue to arise, it just wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, I don't think it happens because of Rodgers' influence, but if the drama gets to a point where he starts getting fed up, that's where you could really have a problem. If he's questioning his decision to come here, like, you just wonder where it leads. And I hate to think this way, but knowing how the team reacts to and responds to media criticism, there's a part of me that feels like something shocking could end up happening just out of nowhere. Whether it's Douglas, resigning because he's just tired of Woody meddling, or Saleh and the Jets mutually part ways, or more stuff comes out about Hackett and players forced to move there. Maybe somehow Rodgers doesn't end up ever playing more than those 4 snaps in a Jet uniform. I hate to think this way so badly, but I just feel like there's going to be something that happens over the next few months that really takes us by surprise. Maybe it is just a player move like a C.J. Mosley to shake up the locker room, or possibly a guy like Lazard just to dispel the notion that Rodgers is really the GM and they just take the cap hit there. But I just think we're in for a wild, wild offseason. Beyond this, I am trying to be hopeful that a healthy Rodgers makes this a playoff team. Then anything could happen. And then if Saleh does get exposed in a big game, hopefully at least that big game buys maybe another year of Rodgers, but also makes this a more attractive destination to go get your head coach, and also to keep Sauce and Garrett and Hall on board, because they do have to experience winning. Otherwise, they're going to want out. And just going back to Lafleur, I think that's probably where, if there is a part of this relationship with Douglas and Saleh, or people in the front office, that is strained, I think that's probably where it started. Just the finger pointing between front office and coaching staff. It was widely reported that Woody Johnson was heavily involved with that decision, which makes a lot more sense now after hearing the Athletic article, that he is involved with a lot of these decisions, a lot more than perhaps we realized, although some people have been speculating it all along because that's just his MO. But I do think that's potentially where the relationship got strained. If Saleh was ultimately forced to get rid of one of his guys that he didn't feel like was the issue. If he felt the issue was Zach, and then they're ultimately forcing him to now make a change at coordinator, and then he still ends up with Zach Wilson at quarterback, you can kind of understand why Saleh's a little bit pissed off. So, like, to his credit, the culture does start at the top. They fed the worry to him about all the wrong shit. Like, the team is so consumed with ticket sales, jerseys, social media headlines, back pages. Like, but when you really look at it, if he didn't want Zach and the front office said no, Zach is better than Flacco, and he was forced to replace his guy as offensive coordinator, he's probably like, dude, this isn't on me. And in fact, like he is, like that's what he's been doing. He's been piling up excuses for months, which, however true it may be, I don't like that mindset for a head coach. So I don't think it's accidental that they missed the happy birthday post on social media. I think that clearly indicates something because the team is way too aware of stuff like that, and they would have to know that it would, kind of further fuel speculation after that athletic article. Somebody had to make a decision to say don't post a birthday message because they did it 3 years in a row, and you combine it with the Hogan news and the changes to the offensive staff. I really think there could be a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we just have no idea about, whether it's related to Rodgers or not, or just the overall aura of the team or the relationships between front office and coaching staff. I really think there's a lot of finger pointing going on because clearly the roster does have talent. If you're, a member of that front office, you feel like you've probably done enough that this team should be in the playoffs or at the very least better than 7 wins. But you also don't get a pass for the state of the offensive line, as well as the quarterback issues, which were clearly ignored this year beyond Aaron Rodgers. And, clearly they absolutely swung and missed with the number 2 overall pick. But then, from a coaching perspective, there's clearly a lot of things as far as game prep that were highlighted in that article that I think fans could clearly see just by watching the product all year. It didn't take an article for us to realize that. But for Saleh, at least, like I was saying, if this isn't his guy running the offense and he's not given a chance to have somebody else at quarterback, it's hard to throw so much of the blame on him in spite of how poorly I feel he has managed the team. Because like I said, he's got to be above all the social media stuff. He can't feed into it. He can't let it distract from the greater picture of the team trying to win games and the game prep and everything else. And I feel like it's almost consumed him in a way where, like we talk about quarterbacks, sometimes they need a change of scenery. I wonder how much all of this stuff has really fed into Saleh's mindset and his psyche. The whole thing about threatening to take a coaching staff's cell phone away, or threatening to take all their cell phones away so he could find the leak. Like, to me, like that also again goes back to the move with Lafleur. If he's paranoid that he didn't have a say, or he didn't have his guy now running the offense, and then now whoever installed Hackett, whether it was Woody or Douglas, whoever made the call there to make the Rodgers move happen, if one of those guys are now the leaks, he's like, you forced whoever it was into my coaching staff. Now they're leaking all this stuff that's destroying our team culture. You can almost sense why he might be in that paranoid mindset. But again, winning solves everything, and ultimately just the product on the field has not been good enough. I think the offensive staff is a problem, but when you have a defensive-minded head coach, you are kind of limited with what he is probably capable of doing during the week to get the offense ready. And like also, is he the type of guy that's going to, step on Hackett's toes, right? Is he going to take away responsibilities? Like, are they actually going to follow through with, adding some additional guys to the offensive coaching staff, taking some of the responsibilities away from Hackett, or, getting some different perspectives in the room? Like, will they embrace that? Or is it just going to create more chaos? So a lot to figure out, but I'm excited to officially get this season over with after the Super Bowl, get on to the offseason, and hopefully look forward to some positive vibes in 2024. So talk to you guys later.